Good afternoon, everybody. Pastor Jonathan here with you for our midweek devotion series on the book of Romans. These are the passages that are appointed for us each and every week, and throughout these weeks of summer, we're looking at each little section, taking little snapshots from what St. Paul has to say to us. And today we're looking at Romans chapter 7, verses 14 to the end of that chapter. We've come a long way already in our brief time together, and I'm not going to summarize everything, but just to kind of jog your memory, help you remember where we've been. We've looked at God's unconditional grace, the gift of holy baptism, the call to be people who are dedicated to our loving Lord, and people who receive the gift of the law that shows us our shortcomings and yet brings us along the way to try and do better in our daily journey, our daily faith journey. Today, St. Paul is in a place where he sounds like he's despairing of doing anything right. And he writes these words, very famous for the end of this chapter of Romans. He said, "I find it to be a law that when I want to do what is good, evil lies close at hand. I delight in the law of God in my innermost person, but I see in my members another law at work, with the law of my mind, making me captive to the law of sin that dwells in me." It reminds me that no matter how hard we might strive to do what is right, sometimes in our striving, we become so focused outward and so, in a sense, separated from what God would have us do to live as His people, that we're reminded of just how immersed in brokenness we truly are. This is the COVID-19 season that we're in. This is mid-July. We've been socially distancing for several months. We're waiting to hear what our governor will say about the next step in the process. And for many of you who've been faithful, you've been wearing your masks, you've been socially distancing, you've been doing all the right things, how does it feel to see somebody out there who's not doing that? Maybe somebody who's encouraging groups to gather. Maybe we're not aware that they have a business and they have motivation for what they're doing, but we become so focused on that other person and so highly critical of them that we don't see our own shortcomings. Reminds me of words of C.S. Lewis that he once wrote, where he said, "Those who do not think about their own sins make up for it by thinking incessantly about the sins of others." Lewis had a wry way of saying in so many words what I see so often is true about myself. It's like the little girl that Julie and I saw on when we were at a church event, I think, years ago, or maybe it was more recently. I don't remember where it was, but we saw a little girl that saw an open outlet, wasn't child protected, and she had her finger, and she was putting her finger over by the outlet, and she was saying no, but still there she was. We know what the law says, and that the law shows us our shortcomings. We know just how far short of the mark we come down, how imperfectly we follow God's laws. We know that we're sinners. We know that we're broken. And it's not a condition that we can somehow rescue ourselves from. The good news is, at the end of this verse, what St. Paul writes when he says, "Wretched man that I am, who will rescue me from this body of death? Thanks be to God through Jesus Christ our Lord." Our rescue is through Jesus Christ our Lord. Our rescue is not found in more laws and more rules for us to follow. Our rescue is not found in being more faithful, more perfect, better people. As much as that might be a good thing to aspire to be, our rescue is found in Jesus Christ and in no other place. And so, whatever your circumstances might be today, whether you're dealing with something very personal, a form of maybe an addiction or an appetite or a craving, like St. Paul seems to be talking about here, that's at war in your person, or whether it's what Lewis would call a spiritual sin, something related to pride or to the feeling that you're superior to everybody else, whatever it might be, you and I are broken. But the good news is that Jesus Christ is the one who has rescued us, and He continues to rescue us. He continues to bring us his gift of forgiveness as we look to him as the source of our strength. In these difficult days of the COVID crisis, I encourage you to continue to lift up your own need for his mercy in prayer. Know that he loves you, he forgives you, and he continues to give you the strength to continue tomorrow and the next week and the next week after that. It's our privilege, isn't it, to encourage each other with these words of our Lord and to rejoice at the discovery that St. Paul made. We'll continue with more next week as we look at Romans 8. Until then, take care, be safe, and God's blessings on your faith journey.